Another week comes around very quickly, doesn't it, Mark?
Oh, it certainly does. And the last 2 weeks have been pretty intense for us, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and that's why the eyes look tired. That's
Yeah.
why, yeah, yeah, it's been absolutely non-stop,
Yeah.
but all good.
Before we get started into things, though, I just want to point. Obviously, the last two episodes we did have to pre-record, so apologies for that because we were so busy and we had this big project on. But I just realised that out of all, because I haven't been on hand to do as much social media normally as I normally am with this, and one of our episodes about sort of do you need 65 million pixels or 45 million pixels in a camera actually got we got more pushback than I mean we'd spoken about a few controversial subjects, Cam, but that one
Hmm.
seems to have like really taken off. Just to clarify, also we do understand that some photographers do need that higher megapixel of camera. We do understand that. I think our point was not you don't necessarily need to if for general purposes. So yeah, so I understand all the copiers who want to do a great big, photograph copy of a piece of work or something like that. We do know you need the big pixel rating there, but not everybody does.
No, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so Mark, what have we got this week?
Well, there's a few things we want to chat about. I mean, since we were away, there was something rather large happened in the US, which I think we need to have a quick
Of
discuss. But
course. Yeah.
I think we want to talk about lighting as well, don't we? Artificial
That's
light
right.
and
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Artificial
non-artificial
light.
light. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Yeah,
but you bought something, haven't you, Cam? That's what you want to discuss about
I
first.
I have. I've bought what I would say is the best gadget that I bought in years. Okay, that
Okay.
helps me with my work. That I bought after the last 2 weeks, and I wish I'd had it during the 2 weeks, the intense
Okay.
period that we had. And this period isn't over yet; it's still going on, and it started before 2 weeks. And anyway, that was the intense period. Anyway, so I discovered this gadget after, and it helps me with my work, but it's not a camera gadget. But I
All
think
right.
it's a gadget that every photographer who does who edits on a laptop and spends a lot of time on their laptop. Okay,
Okay.
now
Is it a
uh,
Wacom pad?
no,
See, guys, I have no idea what this gadget is because he's bought it
you,
since I've
you
seen it.
don't.
So
Okay,
I have
now
no idea.
before
Maybe I'm just going to
okay,
see if I can guess.
now this is essential. Okay, so I sent this link to one of our photographers,
Is it?
Mark, and he immediately said to me, I said, I bought this. It's great, and he just said to me, "Can you send me the link, please?" Right.
He's seen a picture of it. There
Okay,
you go.
right.
All right.
and
Is it an
and
Apple sticker for your PC?
there you go. No, no, not quite. No, I wanted
Not
to keep the
quite.
value. I wanted to keep the value in my laptop.
Oh,
Right.
can increase tenfold if you put an Apple sticker on that.
No, so this gadget that I bought is, as I said, I think more and more photographers now, particularly since COVID, have probably switched to laptops. I know here at our office,
Mm,
we've gone down from six PCs to one, which we now don't use, which is now I can sort of see it and it's sitting there and it just sits there doing nothing and I need to get rid of it. And
right.
it's a power PC. It's really
Mm,
good. And I just need to get rid of it. We've deleted everything that's on there. It's just not being used because it's all laptops now.
mm.
And I find that I now sort of look back and think why did I use PC in the first place? Why did I always go into the office and always think, okay, I need to work? Wwhy didn't I use a laptop more and
Different
more?
way of
Yes,
thinking, I guess. Different way of
it was,
thinking. But come on,
yeah, that's
I
right.
want to know what your gadget is, Cam.
Okay, so whilst I was uh, working, and let's put this into context, okay? So I reckoned, and in actual fact, let me do a quick calculation on this, okay? So let's say there was where we were working with these graduation events, okay? So there were 10 photographers, 10 studios. Let's just say on average they shot each photographer on average shot 800 pictures a
A
day.
day. Yeah,
Okay,
that's about right.
so so that's 8,000. That's 8,000 pictures per day. Okay,
Yeah.
so now let's multiply that by the number of events we had going on to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's about 15 days. Okay. Now, if I multiply 8,000 times 15, that's 120,000 pictures.
That's a lot of pictures, guys.
That's right. That's 120,000 pictures that I had to sit and go through.
Yeah.
That I have been, and I am sitting and going through to identify, just to make sure everything was correct for what we were doing. That's a lot of pictures. Now that means I still haven't told you what the gadget is.
No,
now,
I know.
Okay.
Everyone wants to know what this gadget is.
Okay. So what I did was I had to put all of those images into Lightroom, obviously not in one go, but each photographer's at a time. Now, once you start putting them into Lightroom, they take quite a while to actually upload into Lightroom because you get that fetching previews symbol, that fetching previews tab that comes up. And then, of course, you go through them, and then we have to downsize them. That's straightforward. And then you have to sit and leave them to export. Now, exporting takes a long time. Now, what happens to your PC when you're doing intensive stuff like that, Mark?
Well, it gets rather warm, doesn't it?
It gets hot, doesn't it? Okay. Yeah. And I could feel my laptop was getting very, very hot. Now,
you kept lifting it up on things, didn't you? I saw you. I did.
Now I've got a good laptop. Okay, it's a ProArt. It's a ProArt Studio Book. It's a big old laptop, and it's got fans. You can see on the sides, it's got the vent, so you can feel the heat coming out of it, and you start to feel that processing actually happening. Now, so what I actually did was I went out and bought a laptop cooling pad. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And
I can see why that photographer wanted to link to this.
Okay. Right. So
all right.
Now I'm going to share my screen. So can you see that, Mark?
I can see that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what it was, and
my word.
Yeah. And I just came across it because what I did was while we're on this shoot, I lifted my laptop up and I raised it, okay, and to try and let it cool while it was working, because you could feel the heat coming out of it while it was processing. Okay, by processing, I mean exporting, importing stuff, and remember, it's doing a lot of stuff, and it was day after day, hour after hour. It was early morning through to late at night. I was going back to the hotel and still doing it. Okay, and then I lifted the laptop up and I thought, oh wow, yeah, that does definitely, it's not as hot. And then where we were, there were some fans there as well, so I had some fans blowing on it from a distance as well. I thought I'll do what I can, and then I put into Google after we got back after that crazy period, I put in laptop cooling or something, how to keep your laptop cool, and I didn't even and I didn't even know that these things existed. And the one I've got was a TechNet cooling pad, ideal for a 12 to 17 inch cooling pad, laptop. And at the moment it's at home because I was working at home over the weekend and yesterday, so it's just sort of set up at home. I'm only here to record this podcast, so I didn't actually bring it in. And even now I can feel my laptop, it's the heat coming out of it. It's not existing, but the fans kick in, and this thing is absolutely brilliant. Okay,
and how is it powered?
Just by USB. You just
plug it into USB.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah, or you can just plug it into a separate USB, which is plugged into the main, so you don't have to plug it into your laptop. Yeah. Now that's important because otherwise it'd be another thing that's causing your laptop to do
drain power. Okay? Yeah.
Now the other thing is what it does is you can see from the image there. Okay, it lifts up. Okay, you can see it raises, and it raises to different levels as well. It's not just one height that it lifts up to. Okay. Which I think is brilliant because you can raise it to a comfortable working height. And at the bottom of it, it's got your settings and it's got 6 fan speeds. And when I read about it, there were people. It was mainly gamers that use it, and these people were saying, actually, you spend a few £1,000s on a laptop, and you need to look after that laptop. And if you don't, and I remember the guy that built we had all our PCs in the office bespoke. They were built, and the guy always said about keeping your PCs cool. And on the last 2 PCs we made, he put big fans in them, and he said they need to have that cooling system. And he used to come into our office and he used to say, you need to let air flow through there and everything. And so it was a big thing. And he so I was aware of sort of keeping things cool, but this laptop, this laptop, the cooling pad,
Yeah.
I think has been like one of the best investments, because I think if you have a laptop, you need to look after it. In fact, the one I was sharing, I think it's a slightly different one. I think mine was an upgrade from that one. It's 80. I spent £25 on one. I
Yeah,
saw
it's not a
some
lot, really, is it?
I saw some that were £90 and £150. They were the first ones I saw, and I thought, well, okay, right, okay, maybe that's what I do need to get.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
try cheap.
across,
It's always worth trying a cheaper one first, isn't it? And
well,
then,
well, I looked online and I saw that I put in the top 10 cooling pads, and the one that I bought kept coming up as like one of the best ones. It was always in the top. It was always in the top 3. So I bought it, £25, and I can feel the difference it makes to the laptop.
Okay.
And it feels it cool underneath. And I'd suggest Mac. I mean, Mark, you've got a MacBook, okay?
So, yeah, and they do heat up. So
we've spent,
I might have to look into that and
we've
see.
Spent a lot. Yeah, we've spent a lot of money for £25. You just know that actually, I'm looking after my laptop. I'm looking after it. I'm giving it, because when you're dealing in big numbers of images and processing, it starts to heat up. And obviously it's warm now here as well, and that makes a difference as well, that sort of outside temperature as well. So
it is rather warm at the moment. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, something else, moving on, it's definitely something worth looking at, but talking about heat, as we all know, it's election year this year. Not going to get too into the politics, but it's heating up over in the States, isn't it? So since we were last here,
I mean, do you remember a while ago we were saying that who photographs really well?
Yeah, well, Mr. Trump photographs really well, and Mr. Trump definitely knows how to use a camera and knows about image making when it comes to himself, without a shadow of a doubt. He knows how to be in front of a camera. Now, as we mentioned earlier, obviously we pre-recorded the last two, so obviously the Donald Trump assassination attempt happened in that time, so obviously we didn't comment on it, so that's why we're a little bit late to the conversation. Don't want to get too much into it. We're not going to talk about what happened and whatever. Obviously, neither of us particularly approve of a presidential candidate being assassinated, obviously, despite who it is. It doesn't matter who it is. It's you can't have that sort of thing going on, because you are supposed to have some sort of freedom of speech. But we didn't want to talk about what you wanted to talk about, and the thing that really came out to me is one thing everyone's talking about is how this has elevated Donald Trump's campaign, and it's really down to that picture. I'm sure we've all seen it. So again, we were talking about this in his courtroom photos, when actually we thought he was done. I'm not going to lie, I thought he was done at that point. But obviously he had this, I remember watching it, and obviously he had this, obviously someone tried to shoot him. And after the Secret Service sort of got him up from the ground, he jumped up and put his fist in the air, didn't he? And he said, fight, fight, fight. And some photographer, and kudos to this photographer, managed to get this awesome shot with Donald Trump, blood streaming down but where his ear was. Well, ear still is, he was shot around the ear, wasn't he? So blood coming down, his fists in the air with the American flag in the background. It was just, I just remember looking at that is the perfect shots for his campaign. That is just perfect. And look what's happened now. It's completely rejuvenated his campaign. And it's just another example on Donald Trump under ridiculously stressful, I mean, he's, someone's trying to kill him, right? And he still has that instinct for that camera moment, doesn't he? Which is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's important to stress that we're certainly not making fun of any of this at all. I don't want anyone to message in saying, "Well, you shouldn't be making fun of somebody being shot." We're not at all. Okay, we're just purely talking to the way his reaction towards it, and
which is the perfect reaction.
Which was, and what I did notice is, in fact, it was the first thing I noticed, that when he did get shot, I saw everyone behind him in the crowd duck down, but there was a lady who kept her phone up.
I noticed that.
Okay, and I thought to myself that she was on the ball. Now, that may have been her job to be filming anyway. Okay, she may have been a social media one or something. Okay, and what she did was she just kept her phone going, so she was getting some great stuff.
Yeah.
From behind exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
But yes, the way he and and we had we spoke about this purely now. If you look at it by chance, when we said going back quite a few episodes ago, great people that have been photographed, that people that know how to work the camera. And we said Donald Trump was one of the best people. Like him or whether you like him or not, it's got nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with his politics, anything like that. It's just
that's right. Yeah. Now, yeah, as I said, fair play to him that he got up, he did all of that, and the photographers, because in that moment you react, okay, and a lot of people wouldn't react because you would be scared out of your wits.
Yeah.
Okay, you'd be ducking down, and you wouldn't even think about. In some cases, one, you'd be thinking about yourself, thinking, I don't want a camera to get damaged. A lot of people in that precious situation wouldn't think, right, I've got to get the photos, I've got to get these, because you're putting yourself at risk, aren't you?
I mean, if I was in that position, I probably, and I was in that capacity, I probably would. I think it's different because I mean, the photographer wasn't being shot at. Donald Trump was being shot at. And I think at that point, by the way, I don't know. Well, the main shooter had been neutralized, but there could have been another one. You don't know. But as a professional photographer, and I don't know who took the photo. Was it a professional photographer? I don't even know.
It must have been for somebody to have been that close.
Yeah,
it certainly had to be one of the press guys, or
and that's their job to do that. I would be disappointed if I didn't try at least to get a shot like that if I was in that position. However, that lady in the background, I mean, that's just her and a mobile phone. You know, it's like, what are you doing? Duck. You know, it's not your job. It's you know, that's the difference between me and her, I'd say. Unless she is a photographer, I don't know. She might be, but I'm just off. But I just wanted to point out that picture was just, it is an incredible picture. And I think that's the sort of picture you're going to look back. You know, when you see, there was this, you know, the picture of, I've forgotten his name, the guy who was supposed, that he was convicted of assassinating JFK. What's his name?
Oh, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald. That's it. There's a picture. I remember you remember the big photo book? Do you remember the big photo book? And it said loads. And that photo was in there. You know, it's one of those photos that is almost like history, isn't it? You know, it's an important image. And there's loads of others in the book, but I reckon this Donald Trump one will be one of those pictures. It's just one of those important pictures in history.
Exactly, that's right. And particularly if he becomes president as well.
Yeah.
Even more so, I think it will be, that will be part of these. That'll be part of his legacy, won't it?
Absolutely.
So we're talking, you know, his reaction to that. Now, there were the conspiracy theories. There were people saying, "Was this set up?"
Well, yeah. Well, I hope someone did actually die.
Let's just. That's just what I was about to say. Yeah. So, you know, because someone somewhere out there is going to say, "Oh, well, he played to the camera. He knew this was going to happen. Yeah. How many people would have done it?" Well, no, because I was just about to say somebody did die. Okay, so that knocks that out of the park straight away. His reaction was a genuine reaction.
I think it was.
He was. Well, some people might say he was wise enough, you know, to get up and react.
He knew the opportunity. He knew the opportunity, and
but that's shocking, because when you go into shock, you react. We all react differently under when you're shocked. You know, when you're in shock. Yeah. And some people will just freeze and they will go into panic mode. He didn't do that.
No, he didn't.
He was completely, you know, he's completely on the ball, wasn't he? Now, unless I was going to say, sorry, Mark, that perhaps he's been trained in the event of a shooting of here's how. I'm not talking about how you react and you get up and you raise your fist and all of that, but maybe they are trained to say, look, if there is an assassination attempt, here's the protocol. Here's what you do.
I'm sure that has been, because he went down quite quickly. I seem to remember he kind of felt the thing on his ear and then realized what was going on, and he went down, and then the Secret Service jumped on top of him. Also, though, just to there's another picture, isn't there, where you see the bullet? Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen that one. No.
Yeah, there's one where it's like it's this like streaky blur next to it, and it's the bullet that.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and that's an incredible picture as well. Well, we'll put them up as well.
We'll put them up. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's time for a little break, and then we're going to talk about lighting.
Right, Mark. So I wanted to talk about natural light, shooting in natural light against sort of, artificial light using flash, say, for example,
Yeah.
because we're in that period in summer when you have that bright sunshine and you get that contrast in light where you get, the real dark areas in shade are really dark and the bright areas are very bright. And if you're indoors shooting, what works better, whether it's natural light or whether it's flash. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I now find that I'm using my flash less and less and less and less, and that's on pretty much anything. I'm not talking about studio lights here, okay? I'm just talking about camera on a flash, okay? If you are maybe shooting an event, whether it's indoors or outdoors, okay? So now obviously it depends what camera that you've got and what lens that you've got. Some cameras won't allow you to shoot in lower lighting conditions, without flash. You do need flash, and what lens you've got. If it opens up to 2.8, you can get a lot of light in. And if you've got sort of a one of the pro end of cameras, then you've got high ISO capability, but high ISO capability that still retains the quality. It doesn't mean that if there's a lot of lower end sort of budget price cameras that have got high ISO, but you put it up to 6400 ISO and it's terrible. But the more expensive your camera is, the better the quality of high ISO is. Better sensors, because
I'm not sure about that, because we were talking about megapixels and high res. So the R5 is actually worse than the R6 in low light. So that's not.
Yeah. That was quite a simplistic. I think there's a number of factors. There's a number of factors that lead towards that. Okay, but on the whole, if I was to go and buy a £300 camera, which has got 6400 ISO, and I bought a £2,500 camera and put it at 6400 ISO, the quality of
difference.
But obviously lenses, sensors, and all of that.
I am picking. But,
that's right.
But we have people now. We have people pulling us up on this stuff, Cam. So we have.
I know. That's right. Yeah. Now, so I would now say that if I'm doing non-studio stuff, so Mark, you shoot portraits in the studio, and obviously you're going to be using studio flash for that. It's graduation photography, you're going to be using studio flash for that. I shoot products in the studio, and that's all with studio flash. Okay. I have used LEDs, but really for products, it's still studio flash is the best thing. Now, anything outside of that, where I'm just holding my camera at an event or something, whatever it is, whether it's a corporate event, whether it's a wedding, whatever it is, I don't think that I use my flash probably more than once or twice. Okay, let's take a wedding, for example, or a corporate event. Okay, I will now, even indoors, I would just shoot pretty much everything with available light. I like the feel is so much better as well. I think the color is better. I think it's more natural. I think it's less intrusive. And that's just my opinion. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, because I know you do. I use a lot of flash, it is less intrusive. You're absolutely right on that, and it does depend on what you're shooting. So, for example, I do a lot of stage stuff. There's some dance schools, and there's also a music school, and I don't use flash for that. Because I don't want to put the performers off, but also the lighting rigs. The lighting rigs at the music one is really good, so you don't need it there, and actually you do lose something if you're using flash. So that's fine. Some of the theatres I've shot in, great in the middle of the stage, but not so good in the wings. I'm not going to lie. But if you're dealing with little kids on stage, again, you don't want to be using the flash because it's likely to put them off. Event stuff though. Yeah, I use flash all the time. So, especially if it's indoors, because I actually think I don't know. I actually think it's better if you're doing portraits anyway. If you do it, it depends on the shot, I guess. It depends on the shot. So if you're going around a room and you're seeing some people dance, you go, hey, you guys, how about a quick shot? Get together, quick shot, bang bang, and then you're off again. Yeah, flash definitely, because I think it's quicker. Also, it helps where in some respects the clients will be looking at you as well, and you get in their faces. So outside as well. I mean, I've known to use flash outside mainly because I want to get I don't want them facing the lights. Some people say, well, why don't you use a reflector? Well, reflectors are a pain in the bum to carry around, quite frankly. So I'd rather use the flash. So that's what I do there. I also like using it. We sometimes do it at weddings, don't we, with certain type of romantics. We get the LEDs out. I know it's not flash, but it's still artificial light. And I like that because you can create things with it. You can be a bit more creative for lighting. You've got a bit more control over the lighting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the LEDs are great. I think they're, I view those as sort of natural light, to be honest with you.
But they're not, though. They're artificial light, Cam.
They are, but you're still working with the natural light as well. I mean, those LEDs don't kill the natural light, if you know what I mean. Okay, now flash doesn't if you use it correctly outside.
Yeah.
But I don't like. I can always tell when flash has been used outside. I can always tell when fill-in flash has always been used outside, and I'm not keen on it, and I never have been.
See, I like it.
No, I think to me it looks too. I don't know how to explain it. I think the natural light pictures always look so much more flattering. I think they look more genuine. I'm not keen on using flash outside at all. Now, there's a way of using it and balancing the light with the natural light, and I get that. Okay, and I think a lot of photographers will say, "Well, you can't do this because you'll get that pop with the eyes using all of that and everything." But I think
patch lights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I think styles have changed, though. I think when you're at an event, I think everyone's looking for. I think anything that has that more natural feel, even in low light conditions. And I think people need to trust their cameras as well, particularly if they've got a good, like we've got, like we're using the R6 at 2.8 lens, and I trust that, and I trust taking it up to high ISO because in manual mode I can see what it looks like in the viewfinder, and the thing is when you get flash, yes, I know you get that sort of slight pop, but I feel that you lose that real natural element of things. I feel that you lose that natural element of things. I think there's a. But this is my. It's opinion,
isn't it? It is opinion. I mean, I disagree. I think people do want to see facial features. I think sometimes with natural light, the actual natural light can be incredibly unflattering for people. I don't like. I always do try and avoid people staring into the sun because, again, you kind of get people squinting and all that kind of stuff. I do sometimes just put them in the shade and turn the flash off. I don't always use the flash, but I think if it's a particularly sunny day and you've got to use a bit of fill, I think it looks great. I love the fill-in flash look. Actually, it's really nice, and I think the clients like it because it looks almost magazine-y and it makes them feel a bit. It's something different to what Joe Blogs with an iPhone can do. Do you know what I mean? And I think it adds that little element. Oh, this has been taken by a professional photographer as well.
But you see, I think this is why it's really interesting to have this conversation because you and I have got very different views on it.
Yeah,
I don't like it. You do, okay? And there isn't a right or a wrong. It's just what you want your images to look like at the end. And also, I'm very much as sort of the older I've got, I'm very much about simplifying the equipment that I use. I've always been like that. I try and use the least amount of equipment. And now, if I'm at an event, I'll just take my flash off my camera and think, I don't need it. It's going to be a little less weight. I'm not going to use it. And I've just got me, my camera, and my lens, and that's it. There's nothing else. I don't want to be carrying something around that I don't want to just add more. And it has got more and more like that. But the thing is cameras have allowed me to do that. I mean, I remember going back years ago when we used to shoot on medium format and you'd have the Mets flash attached to it, this big old thing, this big, thing that you'd have. And you had to use it. You had no option then. But now things have changed. And I think I've lightened the load because of the camera and the lenses that we use allow us to do that as well, that much more. And I think I've really got that sort of natural light, how to use it and how to balance the ISO and still keep that quality to a really good level that I feel really confident with it as well. That I think, I don't need flash. I'm going to get something absolutely great with this as well. And it just allows me, I also feel, to get that nicer depth of field as well, rather than having to faff around with my flash and turn the power up, turn the power down.
But come on, Cam, hang on. There's this thing called ETTL, right? And
No, no, in some cases,
and you don't have to do all of that.
no.
I mean, and this is coming from a guy who uses manual flash
Mm,
quite a lot.
mm,
But you know, in the quick things. Now, here's an example. So I shot a prom a couple of months ago, and they wanted the students to walk up this red carpet. Right? It was a new venue. It wasn't a venue that because I shoot them quite a bit, but it wasn't a different venue. And it was a really bright sunny day, you know, clear skies, really bright. It was in the evening, so the sun was low. And of course, where was the sun in comparison to these people walking up the bloody red carpet, right? It was behind them. Of course, it was behind them. So I had to use the flash. There was no way around it. I had to use the flash to fill that in. So I mean, my advice is always to have the flash on the camera because you don't know when you might actually need it. You are right, of course. Cameras are so much better in lower light, and it's not always about lower light. I think that's the thing I'm trying to say. It's not all about exposure. It's about balance of light as well. And if I hadn't had the flash on the camera, I would have been screwed for those pictures.
Yeah, I think there's certain situations where you know that. I'm not saying never use flash. I'm not saying that at all because
but I'm saying always have your flash on your camera because you don't know that suddenly you might need that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you were saying, "Oh, I don't want my flash; it's just my camera, and my lens, and there you go." And I'm like, "No, have the flash on because you might need it." And the last thing you want to do is go, "Hang on a minute, just stay there. I've just got to run back to my bag and get my flash."
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that, but I think that's just. I think that's just experience. I already know where I am before. You know, like I know that if I arrive on a shoot thinking I'm going to need flash here, so I'll put it on. I may need it, but there's a lot of places I can go to and say, there's just no way I'm going to need it. I know exactly where I've got. These are all the options for photos. These are the different rooms. These are the outside areas. I'm just not going to need it. Yeah. And I know, or you know that but there are.
If it was an overcast day, he wouldn't have needed it.
Yeah, there are instances when I think, do you know what? If I've got any doubts, I will have it with me.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll just put it in a little bag around my waist, you know, and that's rather than just leaving it on the camera. Oh yes. So, you know, any photographer, any pro photographer would have a really good quality speed flash as part of their kit. It's essential. I'm not saying never use it because there are times when you have to use it, you don't have a choice. But I think what I'm doing is I'm talking about, you know, when you are in those situations where, you know, do you want to use flash? Do you want to go natural light? I will always go natural. 99% of the time.
So do you prefer natural light generally though? Do you prefer natural light? So if you were, let's say you were doing like, I don't know, a model shoot or something, would you always opt for natural light rather than flash?
But again, it depends what the shoot is. And
I'm just talking about preference, general preference.
Without, yes.
Of course, if it's in the brief, of course, if it's in the brief, then you do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But generally, if you were just doing it for yourself.
I'd just travel lighten the load, so I don't need it. I know I can get it. And as you said, reflectors are a real pain. And I don't use reflectors either. And you need someone to hold a reflector and all of that, you know. And I think a lot of it more so is that I and I remember this is actually a lesson that I learned when I was going back and shooting medium format. And I still remember because it was the guy that I was working for at the time told me this. And I had the Mets and I had the Bronica on and I can't remember what else there was. Anyway, and I had a problem. And basically what we did was we took the camera off the Mets plate, did a couple of things. And he goes, in 99% of cases, I still remember this and I still use this to this day, is that the fix usually is an easy one is if your camera goes wrong or something. You know, sometimes it's just a matter of turning it off and turning it back on. Sometimes you just take the battery out and fix it back on. But the more gadgets and the more things that you have, the more that there is to go wrong. And that stuck with me. And now I always think that if I can shoot natural light, it's just less to go wrong.
Yeah,
as well.
No, I get that. I mean, I prefer studio. I have to say, I love doing studio stuff. I think having that control over the light, I think, is really nice. Obviously, you can control light and natural light, but if you know what you're doing, and that's fine. But I love adding fill. I love adding rim light. I love adding gels in places. It's I feel you can be a lot more creative with certain lighting, which is why and I do count LEDs as artificial light because that light wouldn't be there unless you had the LEDs there.
Yeah,
And doing some of those things, playing with shadows, I actually really enjoy doing that.
I know you do. Yeah, and I've seen you do it, and it's great.
Mm.
But for me, I always sort of I'm not talking about the LEDs because I love the LEDs, and I've seen you.
But that is artificial light, though.
It is.
By absolute definition, it is.
It is. Of course, it is. That's right. Yeah. And I think maybe let's say flash versus other lights.
Well, we're changing the conversation there.
but I think for all the photographers out there, I think you do have your own preferred way of working. You've always got to think about your customer's brief and what the customer wants to get out of it. At the end of the day, and some photographers don't like this, okay, is you have to give the customer what they want. Yes, you are the photographer and you might say that, look, no, I don't do this. That's not my style. But if that's the case, then tell your client before the shoot and say, no, it's not for me. It's not what I'm going to do. But if you get into a shoot and you give the client, you need to know what the client wants and you need to give the client exactly what they want, not say afterwards, well, it's not really what I do. And it's not my style. And for photographers, if photographers turn around and say, well, you're taking away your artistic license, at the end of the day, your client's paying you.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. I never really subscribe to that. But
yeah, and you might not like what your client wants, but you've got to do it. And if your client is happy,
you've got to do a job. You got to do a job, and you got to take that.
That's right. Yeah, throw in a bit of your own style and say, look, I've done, in amongst, and they might say, oh, actually, I like that, but generally give the client what they want. And if my client said, I need this all shot with flash, I would shoot them all with flash.
Fair enough. And I think that's where we ended. But I tell you what, I'd like to know what you guys think. So do comment. We do like reading the comments. We don't always reply because we could be on a shoot somewhere, but we do like reading them and seeing what people think. With that, we need to give a good shout out to our patrons. Yet again, we forgot to mention about our patron thing right at the beginning of the show. So we do have a Patreon page, everyone. So please do go for it. It's only £2.50 a month. And that gets you a shout out on each episode, which you're about to hear, and also early releases of the pods. Sometimes we are a little late on that, but it's £2.50, so it's all good. £2.50. It's not even a pint of beer these days. So let's give our lovely patrons a shout out. So we have Rob Percy, and we also have Craig Chuck, Frank Case, Amira Zainab, Carl Sherville, and Nick Payne. So thank you guys so much. We really do. We really do appreciate it. So thank you for supporting the show.
Just before we finish off, Mark, he said £2.50. You can't even get a pint of beer. You can't even get. You wouldn't even get that much of a beer for £2.50 these days.
there was something else I saw for £2.50. Oh yeah, no, I was. So me and Nat went to a local stately home, and they have like roundabouts and stuff. And there was this tiny little roundabout, sorry, for kids, just teacups, and it was £2.50. For a round, and it was it's like 2 minutes on these teacups for £2.50. Well, £2.50 gets you a whole month of our cool stuff and shout outs and things. So
and also on that note, just want to quickly mention here in Bedford where I am, the town has a river festival every 2 years, and I was reading about this online the other day, and it attracted it's just happened last weekend or the weekend before, and there were 300,000 people that attended the event.
Wow.
Okay, over the weekend. It's a massive event. And a lot of people were saying, but everything was so expensive. Kids' rides were £5 or something.
Whoa.
But it's a free festival, okay? So anyone can get in, you can take your own food and drink. But however, and I might be wrong here, but I was told at the PIMS tent, a PIMS was £10.
Whoa. £10.
Okay. I think, okay, so someone might say, no, it actually wasn't. It wasn't £10. But somebody has said to me their PIMS was £10 for a cup of PIMS. And on that note,
we'll see you all soon. But thanks for listening, and we will we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.